My name is Li Wenwu. I'm your instructor today. In the last couple of weeks, we have learned many learning design theories and models. To expand the topic, in today's lesson, I would like to introduce to you one more design theory, component display theory. By the end of this section, you should be able to state the definition of component display theory, list the components in the two dimensions of CDT, explain how the CDT matrix works, describe the strengths and weaknesses of CDT, give an example of how to use CDT in instructional design by using CDT matrix. Apply CDT in an authentic lesson plan. Compare CDT with one other learning design theory. So let's get started. What's component display theory? Component display theory is an instructional design theory introduced by M. David Merrill. It is a content classification strategy that helps identify the components of the learning content for different kinds of objectives and outcomes. Component display theory, CDT, consists of two basic dimensions: content, fact, concept, principle, and procedure, and performance, remember, generally, use, and find. These two dimensions are based on the assumption of gauge conditions of learning. He suggested that there are different kinds of outcomes, and each of the outcomes need to be achieved through unique conditions for learning. The author also introduced four primary presentation forms include rules, expository presentation of general examples, expository presentation of instances, recall, inquisitory in generally, and practice, inquisitory instance. The secondary presentation forms include prerequisites, objectives, helps, memories, and feedback. Merrill then visualizes these two dimensions into a content performance matrix as shown below. Instructional design can fill in each cell of this matrix to specify learning objectives and text items. As you can see from the matrix consists the level of performance and the types of content. The performance columns consist of remember, use, and find. In the case of remembering, learners are encouraged to remember a specific piece of data that they have committed to memory. With using, the learners are asked to apply the information they've collected from their memory to a particular scenario or problem. Finding involves that learners are actually using the information to arrive at a new concept, idea, or principle. The content column include fact, concept, procedure, principle. Facts are key pieces of information such as numbers, names, and events. Concepts are symbols or objectives that have similar characteristics or properties which share a name. Procedures are a series of steps that can be used to solve the problem, while principles explain why something occurs as it does. So, How can we use this matrix? Next, I gonna give you an example. Take the lesson I'm delivering now as an example. I could fill out this matrix before I conduct this course. In the remember concept cell, which means recognizing a concept that was previously taught, I could write learning an objective like stating the definition of CDT. Further, in the use concept cell, which means applying this concept to a specific case, I would write to give an example of how to use CDT in instructional design. Lastly, in the find concept section, which means generalize this concept to reality, I could write having students design a lesson using CDT. Guided by these three objectives, I could start my lesson by introducing the major knowledge of CDT, such as its definition, principles, and the CDT matrix, followed by having students writing out the matrix and finishing the lesson by assigning the student to generate a lesson plan using CDT. So, what are the significances of CDT? Merrill concludes a number of the strengths of CDT. CDT matrix serves as a structure that allows instructional designers to follow specific steps to maximize the effectiveness of their courses. Number 2. CDT matrix allows instructional designers focus on broader aspects. Number 3. CDT helps instructional designers to identify learning objectives and outcomes. Number 4. CDT gives learners the autonomy to select their content and the learning components to meet diverse learning needs and styles. On the other hand, CDT has certain limitations. Number 1, CDT only focuses on cognitive outcomes, neglecting psychomotor and affective outcomes. In other words, CDT pays more attention to knowledge acquisition without integrating it into practical skills. CDT focuses on parts of the components in the matrix. It is difficult to bring these components together as a whole. Number 3. The instruction is passive instead of interactive. Number 4. It is very effective to fill out all the cells in the matrix and bring them into a whole presentation. There is a theory I think can be linked to CDT. I can relate some similarities between component display theory and backward design. They both consider the learning outcomes before planning out the lesson, as illustrated by Vincent, a peer of my class. Backward design starts with setting the big ideas and essential questions. Then work your way back, create several small themes, determine the objective of the course based on the small themes. Then determine how to evaluate, which comes to assessment. Similarly, by filling out the cells of the above matrix, CDT lists a number of learning outcomes to guide the lesson plan. The difference between these two theories is the method to classify the learning outcomes. So, we almost finished the lesson. Do you have an overall understanding of CDT? Here are some questions to help you review your learning. Number 1. What is component display theory? Number 2. What are the major components in the 2 dimensions of CDT? Number 3. How the CDT matrix works? Number 4. What are the strengths and the weaknesses of CDT? Number 5. Is there any other theories that are similar to CDT? In today's lesson, we have learned the definition of CDT, including its basis, elements, and principle. We have also studied the CDT matrix as well as how it can be used in real situations. Then we continue to learn about its significance and the limitations. Lastly, we have compared it to backward design. Your task today is to write an example of how to use CDT in instructional design by using CDT matrix. I encourage you to apply some of the CDT's principles in your future learning design. Thank you for attending this lesson. I hope you enjoy your time with me.